Hey, guess what? I know you don't know this, but the West Coast ports are shut down as union workers don't show up to work. Now, when is this from? This is from Friday, June 2nd. So Google West Coast ports. See what's the update on this, please. So this is from CNBC. West Coast ports and terminals are shutting down after union workers walked off the job after a failure in negotiations with port management. West Coast ports have been involved in tense labor negotiations with unions, though recent progress has been cited. The Port of Oakland shut down on Friday morning due to lack of sufficient labor. And operations in Los Angeles were reported to be closing too, including Phoenix Marine, the APL terminal, and Port of Unemi. Is that how you say that? Unim? So the Port of Oakland was shut down on last Friday morning, due to insufficient labor for terminal operations, a stoppage that is expected to last at least through Saturday. So anything happening? Did you find out anything? No, nothing? Look up the West Coast ports, Steph. See if you get any updates on what's going on with the West Coast ports. A source close to the situation told CNBC the port shutdowns are expected to spread across the West Coast as a result of lack of sufficient labor as workers protest over wage negotiations and contract talks with portsmen. So this is going to spread. So it should be spreading, right? So today's Thursday. This is from last Friday. So it should have spreaded, right? Hey, Siri, is there a work stoppage in the West Coast ports? Yeah, there is.
West Coast port labor issues persist from LA to Seattle, with supply chain frustration mounting. That's as of Monday.
So this is from June 6th. What's today? June 7th? Is today the 8th? Today's the 8th. This is from 2 days ago. Operations at several West Coast ports were throttled Monday due to labor stoppages or slowdowns. Wow, as the contract negotiations have dragged out for 2 years. It's being dragged into the second year. These kinds of work stoppages have disrupted operations at West Coast ports for months, pushing more shipping activity to the East Coast and raising painfully familiar concerns about supply chain disruption. Some trade groups have urged the Biden administration to get involved and crush another strike. But the White House on Monday said it's just monitoring the situation. The acting Secretary of Labor, Julie Su, has been urging both sides to come to terms, according to a source familiar with the administration's workings. Su, the administration's nominee to lead the department, helped resolve a labor dispute at the ports back in 2019 when she was California's labor secretary. So contract talks began in May 2022 between the International Longshore Warehouse Union, that's the ILWU, which represents 22,000 workers across 29 ports from Washington State to California, and the Pacific Maritime Association, which represents shipping companies and terminal operators. The union contract covering those workers expired in July 2022. So, do you see what's happening? Do you see the glue that holds capitalism together? They won't even take care of that. The railroad workers, they won't even give them sick days. This is called end-stage capitalism. And now the port workers, fuck them all. Somehow, this year there have been an increasing number of so-called worker actions at the ports, meaning union members fail to show up for work or otherwise slow down operations, leading to sporadic shutdowns. For example, in March, one local union branch stopped staggering work meal times, which the PMA said forced the port to shut down activity for an hour during the afternoon and in the evening. So they all took lunch at the same time. The previous contract had provisions to ensure staggered meal times. The disruptions Monday were in Los Angeles, Long Beach, and the Port of Seattle, the Wall Street Journal reported. There was also stoppages in Oakland over this past weekend. That's what we're talking about. So here's what Axios says is the big picture. While the economic impact of the day-long work stoppage is negligible, The drawn-out labor negotiations are tarnishing the West Coast port's reputation as a reliable gateway of international trade. That's accelerating a long-term shift away from the West Coast to the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports, he said. Back in 2003, the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach handled 57% of all the Trans-Pacific containerized imports. Last year, the share was only 45%. That's down 12%. Long term, that'll be a hit to the California economy. So see what they're saying in this article? See, these goddamn union guys shutting down with these work actions, it's going to hurt our economy. Well, then why doesn't the company just give them what they want? Negotiations are ongoing. We aren't going to settle for an economic package that doesn't recognize the heroic efforts and personal sacrifices of the union workforce that lifted the shipping industry to record profits. So they're having record profits. And they don't want to pay their workers. You know, the workers that generate the profits. Profits in the container shipping industry in the first quarter fell an astonishingly 78%. Profits fell 78%. That's $45 billion from the same period last year. But still, profits are far higher than pre-pandemic levels. So they're crushing it, these shipping companies. Profit levels are way higher than pre-pandemic levels. They're still crushing it, and they don't want to pay their workers. So there you go. Let's see what else this. So while the actions taken by workers are not a formal strike, the source told CNBC to expect stoppages at other West Coast ports as union workers refuse to report for assignments, with operations also reportedly stopping at the port hub of Los Angeles, including that. So we didn't. Bananas, the largest import in that category. Perishables. In an ILW press release, International President Willie Adams said talks have not broken down. We aren't going to settle for nothing. We just told you that. Okay, so that's the story. The port of Oakland is the 8th largest port in the country, importing a wide range of items from Australian wine and meat to aluminum from South Korea and clothing and electronics, furniture from China. The ports and unions have been involved in... There you go. Okay. Yeah. The ILW statement did not call out wages specifically, but cited basic requests, including health and safety, and the $500 billion in profits made by ocean carriers and terminal operators during the past 2 years. That's more than the Big Pharma made. That's more than Big Pharma made. Holy shit. They don't want to pay their workers. Any port closure creates backups that impacts both the pickup and drop-off of products by truck drivers. Truckers also had a work stoppage related to the AB5 legislation in California covering classifications of truckers as employees, a stoppage which lasted for 5 days but took 2 months to clear up. The ILWU union workers did not cross that picket line. Wow. At the Port of Oakland, over 2,100 trucks go through the terminals each day, but none are expected through Saturday with insufficient labor to serve the trucks. There's another one. Insulting pay increase. $1.56 across 3 tiers. That's what they were going to give them. $1.56 pay increase. The dispute is over wage increases. A Los Angeles area dock worker told they want to give us $1.56. So that's what this is all about. They're sharing the profits. Current hourly starting pay for casuals is $32.31, which means a $1.56 raise translates to a roughly 4.5% wage increase. That raises, in reality, a wage cut, given that it is well below inflation, which in California is currently averaging 7.4%. For higher tier dock workers in Class A and Class B, the only ones who actually get to vote on the contract, a $1.56 raise equates to roughly 3% increase or less of their hourly salary. The mass action by workers on Friday is a sign of the immense tensions that have built up on the docks as the union, working in concert with the PMA and the Biden administration, has enforced a de facto no-strike pledge after the contract between the PMA and the ILWU expired last year. However, it appears this ongoing conspiracy between the PMA, the ILWU, and the Biden administration is testing the patience of the dock workers. This is the third time in the last 3 months that workers have effectively shut down port. So it sounds like they're doing it outside the purview of their own union. That's what that makes it sound like. While several press outlets reported that most recent stoppages were wildcat strikes that closed the ports, dock workers in Oakland and San Francisco and Los Angeles confirmed that the cargo was still being moved on Friday and jobs were being handed out to workers at the hiring hall over the weekend. A port worker in San Francisco told the WSWS reporters that he was not aware of any coordinated action behind the Friday shutdowns. So this is just workers doing it on their own. He surmised that skilled workers in the higher tax tiers did not show up to the hiring hall to express their discontent with the proposed $1.56 raise. So there you go. They want their share of the profits. They're making unbelievable amounts of money, and of course they don't want to give it to them. That's all that is. Hey, everybody, only $10 to go see my new stand-up special, COVID Lies Are Funny, at jimmydore.com, and come see us do a live show. We're going to be in Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Bakersfield, California, Baltimore, San Francisco, Huntington Beach, Rosemont, and Chicago, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, and more. We're going to be in New York, Stamford, Connecticut, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, San Diego, everywhere. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all our tickets.